cherish all the time you spend, you tuned in too. It's time again to cherish all the time you spend, you tuned in too. It's the number one podcast. The topics of discussion when we broadcast. So all them artificial man jokes, we do it natural from the concrete to a public standpoint. Real, wherever you from, life is coexistence, but to know the real, you just gotta listen. Wherever you from, life is coexistence, but to know the real, you just gotta listen.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the 52 Scott Podcast. I'm your host, K Money, and in the building with me, my co-host, Freddie G, Slash, and Comedian 96. Collectively, we are the Mind of Men. And you can find us on Twitter at 52 Scott Podcast, Instagram and Facebook, the 52 Scott Podcast. And if you're on YouTube, please don't forget to like and or subscribe. Welcome back, fellas, to another episode of True Tuesday. Today, fellas, I thought we'd discuss conditions of folks that are locked up in jail and in prison. And what got me thinking about this topic, man, I've seen several posts on Instagram where, you know, how some convicts have access to phones.
Yeah.
And they're showing, you know, some of the conditions that they're living in, which is pretty sad, man. Yeah. I mean, I understand these guys have committed crimes, but I don't think because of them committing the crimes that they've committed that they should live in such conditions. Right. You know, I don't think it's right.
Probably no air conditioning.
Well, yeah, and you know, I've never actually been locked up for more than 24 hours. So, and honestly speaking, when I was booked, the area I was in it was pretty clean.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
To see what I was seeing on Instagram and even on some stories that you know the news has covered at times, you know, these conditions are pretty deplorable, and
yeah,
it's really no excuse. And I'm not sure what the officials, the jailhouse officials, are saying or are using as an excuse. But you know, there's a gentleman named Fleece Johnson. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Fleece.
Yeah.
Name
sound
the
familiar.
Booty Band.
Yeah, they did a MSNBC did a documentary on Fleece several years back, and that's when I was first introduced to him because of his topic, which his key phrase was "I like booty." You know, so he was mainly getting on these young cats. I think it was around the time when sagging first started coming out, and he was basically explaining, you know, guys that sag basically was pretty much saying that, okay, I'm introducing you or welcoming you to come get this ass, basically. No homo. I'm speaking for Fleece, so basically speaking in Fleece's voice. But Fleece, man, had a pretty interesting story, man. He's out now, and he was sharing his story, pretty much his testimony. You know, Fleece was arrested at 14 and had went to prison at 16.
Man.
So Fleece had never actually had an opportunity to get any punani.
Yeah.
You know, he was booty was the first thing he was introduced to.
Wow.
You know, because of him being locked up as long as he was, but he was a menace. You know, which still doesn't justify some of the things that Fleece was put through. You know, because of his behavior while locked up.
Right.
He mentioned how he was put in the hole at one point in time, and he recalled I can't remember what he had done.
Yeah.
But he could recall waking up in the hole, and he said it felt like he had, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he said he had flies in his ass.
No, man.
And this is what the guards had done.
Damn.
No, I think if you don't mind, I know what you're talking about. So I think here's the deal: they stripped him naked, and they put him in like I guess a 4-point restraint, if I'm not
Correct.
But this was before or after he had taken, he had a bowel movement. And so I don't think he was able, I assume he wasn't able to wipe himself or whatever, so he had a bowel movement. So now they take him down or whatever, and he's asleep. And so he was awakened by, in his words, felt like about 500 flies was up in his ass, and it felt like a vibrator in his ass,
Right.
according to his words. Felt like a vibrator was in his ass. And so, yeah, I know what you're talking about, K-Money. I did see that interview.
I appreciate you helping me out with that story, man. Because like I said, he had several stories, and I believe there's 3 interviews out there. And after that incident, Fleece had a lot of animosity. And he was like, I'm gonna get every last one of you motherfuckers back. Is what he was telling the guards.
Yeah.
So there's and correct me on this, Fred, because I really couldn't understand if Fleece, if there was something when he got out the hole. His way of getting the officers back, man, it was something I believe it's called shit walk. Is that what it's called, Fred?
Yeah.
This is he said it involved glass, shit, and magic shave.
Yeah.
What?
And when the COs who I guess do their normal walk throughout the day, he would throw this on them.
Yeah.
So they wipe
So,
their
yeah,
shit
so-
and the
so-
glass is fucking them up.
Yeah, and so that's kind of extreme, but I've heard stories from relatives that has been incarcerated in the state of Texas, TDC, where it's that's kind of equivalent to what they call gassing, and where they're putting throwing feces and urine. I mean, feces and urine on them.
On the guard.
Yeah, and gassing them. But the magic shave and the glass, whatever, that's a little extreme. But hey, you got to think about the times when he was locked up.
Yeah,
too.
he said he created that, but now it's a felony, for prisoners to do this.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I bet you it is.
Yeah.
I be looking at I be watching little documentaries on TV. There's one on Netflix right now. Talking about the worst prisons. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was a story also on Instagram about there's a prison in Arizona or California? It was too hot. It's like 116
like
degrees.
Arizona.
That was one of the big stories last week. But I'm saying that because when I look at the ones toughest prisons over there compared to over here, if you watch that, whatever you get over here, you might just be like, let me shut up. Because
The shit over there is
people over
really
there,
crazy.
these people from the U.S., they'll go to jail over there. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know nobody over there to eat, you gotta make some money.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest fears is to be locked up abroad.
Abroad, that's one of my biggest fears. So anywhere you go, out of all the prisons, I take that back. It was one prison, it was all right. Because it was like a 1-bedroom apartment. I was like, I didn't go. No, let me stop. But it was enough. But the rest of those prisons, man, no.
I actually know. When we were stationed in San Diego, I used to go to Tijuana to party back in my day. In the day, this was before the drug cartels and everybody was. I'm sure they had the drug cartels back then, but
they wasn't as bad.
But it wasn't as bad now to travel to Mexico. I actually know several people that have been in jail in Tijuana, Mexico, because of course we drinking and partying and sailors, and then they get in trouble and they get locked up over there. I know several people who was locked up in Tijuana, and the U.S. had to get them out. They may have been incarcerated there for maybe like about no longer than a month, but they were able to get them out, right?
These are military?
Yeah, military guys. And I've heard some of the stories about the conditions in those prisons, and kind of piggybacking off of what you said, Comedian 96. No matter the harsh conditions you hear about the prisons here in the U.S., I think our prisons here in the U.S. Is like Disneyland compared to prisons overseas.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of those prisons overseas, they're hardly guarded. I mean, the guards, it's like you're guarding yourself. The prisoners are guarding themselves. The guards pretty much focus on the outside, and the prisoners, manage the inside. And they have their own rules. And and laws. It seemed like that's one of my favorite shows on Netflix, Comedian 96. That World Stuff is Prison.
Yeah, it's World Stuff is
Yeah, I don't know
Prison.
why I'm interested in it, but
Yeah, I be watching that one and Locked Up Abroad.
That one as well.
Oh my God, man! I tell you, I ain't doing nothing. I ain't gonna bring a joint abroad at all. Going back to the, never mind. We don't talk. That's another story for another day.
So Fleece, back to Fleece Johnson.
right.
How much do we really know about Fleece Johnson before, excuse me, his prison sentence?
Well, I know when he was young, like I say, Fleece was a menace. He was always in trouble, getting in trouble. He said he and his gang used to steal cars, and they would basically antagonize the police. They would do crimes and pretty much rub it in the police's face. So,
Right.
He made himself well aware, well known to law officials. And this was one of the reasons, which brought some of the negative things that happened to him
Right.
to occur because of, how he was. And after being locked up, that didn't stop him from being bad. He was constantly fighting.
Right.
That was a story where his teeth, he lost his teeth. And he was fighting this guy that was in the Army. And he said the guy had him in a headlock.
Yeah.
He wasn't scared of the guy, but this was
Yeah.
a big buff guy.
Right.
It's like, I guess, me going against Comedian 96, and there is no size comparison for our those that are listening.
Right.
Yeah.
But, he was fighting this big buff dude that was in the Army, and they was telling him, hey, you don't want to fight that guy.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, when Fleece got out I guess he was in the hole. When he got out the hole, he said he saw the dude, and he went and charged him and swung on him.
Yeah.
And he hit dude, and the dude said, he had some comeback, like, you got to come better than that, basically, like the hit punch basically didn't phase him.
Didn't phase. Yeah.
So dude somehow ended up getting Fleece into the headlock, and Fleece, he said the headlock was so tight, he ended up farting. And he said that's when he panicked, because he knew he was in trouble. He was like, this motherfucker finna kill me, type of shit. So Fleece said he bit him.
Yeah.
So when he bit the dude, he said dude said ouch real loud, but I guess he must have punched the fuck out of him, because that's when he knocked his teeth out.
Yeah.
So Fleece was like, shit, this is what I'm finna start doing from now on. When I'm fighting motherfuckers, I'm gonna start biting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he did it so much to where he was threatening, the prison officials threatened him and said, if you continue doing this here, we gonna take your teeth out.
Yeah.
Didn't stop Fleece.
They took his teeth out. though?
Very next fight, they ended up sedating him. He said he came to, mouth,
He ain't had no more teeth.
No more teeth.
no grill.
Damn.
So
God, dog.
what's crazy though is when he got out, he tried to get some teeth,
Yeah.
but it was deemed as if his teeth was like got buying a gun. He couldn't get them.
Yeah.
He couldn't buy any teeth because
Oh,
it was
man,
almost
they
like him.
banned the man from
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Man, come on, man. That's unhuman, like, man.
But
You said something that's interesting, right?
what's
Yeah.
that?
He was incarcerated at the age of 16, and he was tried as an adult. He was in an adult prison.
Adult.
Right.
Now, I know he was a menace on the street or whatever, but man, you got to think about, all of the people, like when you're a child and they're putting you in an adult world. And then one thing that, and I did see the interview, you're talking about K-Money. One thing that stood out with me in that interview was that somebody tried to get his booty first.
Right,
Oh, I didn't know that.
right.
Because he was a kid.
Yeah,
And they was trying to take his booty. So he was fighting to keep his booty.
So that's Fleece.
yeah,
yeah.
that's Fleece.
So now that you mention that, I don't know. This is what I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
It says that Fleece's biological father is known as Asif. Supposedly he's a gay rapist and Taliban boss. And he enjoys having gay sex with Hazaras and Welsh people.
So it's hereditary, is what you're saying. You think?
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what it
Lord.
says.
Passed down from generation to generation
You know.
in the worst way.
So that's why you saying when he was a kid, somebody was trying to do it to him.
when he got to prison, when he was in
Yeah,
prison.
he never
so
mentioned.
So nothing happened before he got to
well,
prison.
he never
He
mentioned
never-
it.
He never
Yeah.
mentioned it. Yeah.
He was saying, I do recall him saying something about, he had gotten in trouble, and his dad, something they could have sued somebody for something, and his dad didn't know what the hell was going on and kind of pretty much messed everything up. That's the only thing I ever heard him speak of.
Because he didn't want to get involved.
About his dad.
Now, reading this, if it was anything, he didn't want to get involved because they already knew who he was, and he probably didn't want to expose whatever the situation was back then.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Because this guy was born, Fleece, in 1957, correct?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, they talking about his dad, who is known as Asif, and that sounds like a Taliban name. I mean, you know.
Now the only time I did hear, and I hadn't heard the third interview, but Fleece did mention his father in an instance where he had actually filed a lawsuit against the prison, and the only way that he ended up dropping the lawsuit because his father got incarcerated, and they were going to send his father to this prison where he had caused a lot of trouble. So he felt like, if they had done so, his father, they would have taken it out on his father, basically.
Right.
So that was the only time I really heard him mentioning his father. But that lawsuit cost the state $200 million.
Yeah.
Which
Oh, wow.
Fleece, he takes great pride and credit in a lot of these things that he's created because of his behavior.
Yeah.
Which, again, the episode that we today was supposed to be about the deplorable conditions in jailhouses and prisons.
Yeah.
And I hardly mentioned, some of the things that Fleece was mentioning, but a lot of those times when he was in the hole, he mentioned how intentionally, I believe, toilets were stopped up, rats and shit.
Yeah.
It was rat infested. So you just think,
that,
living in these type of conditions, and your space, you have limited space,
Right.
all because of you committing a crime. Again, I'm not saying that these gentlemen belong in a 5-star hotel or even a 3-star hotel for that matter, but this definitely is unsanitary and it's not healthy.
Right.
That's true.
And now with COVID going around, and now in the previous episode we talked about RSV.
Yeah.
This type of shit. You got to think of prisoners getting out.
Yeah.
And what type of health they're in.
That's right.
Based on the environment that they're coming out of.
Yeah.
That's putting
The rest of the community at risk, actually. Because guys get out of prison all the time, so we don't know what they carrying or bringing back to our community from being in in this little confined space with these poor conditions. I mean, you catch all kind of stuff from that. You get skin diseases, skin rashes,
So you got to think about this too, the living conditions in the prisons, right? So the inmates actually run the prison, right? No matter where you go, the inmates run the prison. So let's talk about the kitchen. The inmates are cooking the food.
right.
Let's talk about cleaning the kitchen.
Right.
The inmates clean the kitchen.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the laundry.
They
In
do
the
all
laundry, they do all of the laundry.
that. Yeah.
So when we're thinking about the living conditions of the prisons, then to me it seems like you would think that if the inmates are the ones that's keeping things clean and the guards are overseeing it, are they not enforcing that the inmates clean or do better? Or what if you're in prison and you got somebody that's not cleaning? Do you tell the other inmate, hey man, you need to clean up? You know what that's gonna do? That's gonna start a fight.
In my opinion, I don't think the rats are coming from because it's not clean in the prison.
When you backing up the sewage,
Yeah, I don't.
when you do that, everything, you getting the flying cockroaches, you getting the rats and whatever else is in the sewage. So
I think rats are just there from over a period of time. That prison probably been there for a long time. Of course, they got rats.
they
in
got
there.
rats.
So I don't think that's a part of the prisoners not being clean. I just think that's a part of where they are.
Most prisons have a field anyway, and
Right,
any
you're
field
right.
gonna have field rats.
You're surrounded by field
Yeah.
most of the time. So that's just the normal environment, which the control for that would be to exterminate.
Yep. Exterminate. But to answer
Rats?
your question, Freddie G, if a prisoner, if you know, we do have to hold the prisoners accountable if they are cleaning the area that they're living in, and everybody's not holding their own. You know, like you said earlier, the prisoners are running the prison, so whatever they have in force to, just like the negative shit that go on in prison. You know, if you don't pay up, there's consequences. So it should be the same with cleaning. You know, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, there's consequences.
Especially with food. If you in prison, you here. So you would think, man, I gotta cook this food and I gotta clean this pot. I gotta make sure this pot clean for the next food that's coming up due next tomorrow. So you would think where you live, you gonna make sure you good. So
Right. Yeah.
I mean, especially the U.S., it ain't like overseas like we were just talking about it. Well, over there, it's never gonna get clean.
Yeah, and these guys sleeping on concrete and shit like that.
Man, I'm telling you.
I mean, it may feel like concrete in our prisons, you know, on the cots that these guys have. I don't know. Like I said, I've never been there.
And I don't want to go there.
Yeah, my one experience, you know, was enough for me. That scared me straight. But I appreciate y'all joining us, man. It was another good episode. Peace out. This concludes another True Tuesday episode, and be sure you tune in tomorrow for Women Wednesday with Freddie G. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at 52 Scott Podcast, on Instagram and Facebook, The 52 Scott Podcast. And for all you YouTubers, don't forget to like and subscribe. And to all my 52 Scott faithfuls, it may be new to you, but if you heard it here, then you know it's true.